We can't prove it, we can't recreate it, but you know, we learn as we go, and we learn from the urban legends that have been passed on.
Do you believe Ouija board use could lead to possession?
I have to actually think about that one too. Do I believe it can be? Yes. I do believe that it could lead to possession. It is up to the individual user to whether or not they're mentally unsound, physically unsound, under a lot of duress in their life. There's that little wormhole that's opened in their mind that may allow a spirit to come through and take advantage of that. Do I believe that? Absolutely. As with ghost hunting, put yourself in a haunted situation, something may come through and affect you later on. I've seen it, I've been there, I've done that. Possession is a very rare case, a very, very, very rare case. If you think about it, all the people from the spiritualist movement, again, our grandmothers and great-grandmothers and grandfathers all did it, and we didn't have a viral case of possession back then. You know, not everybody back then would have a demonologist on speed dial like we do now. Life went on. You know, unfortunate events happened, fires, floods, disasters, just as they do now. As far as the person who may have a possession, the stories that I've heard are few and far between. And you do have to take certain measures to protect yourself, to do it the right way, just as a ghost hunter would investigate the right way. You introduce yourself, you set a couple ground rules, and you go from there.
Do you believe there's any difference between using a Ouija board to communicate with the spirit world or a K2 meter or doing EVPs?
I absolutely think there's no difference between modern technology and the good old-fashioned masonite board and plastic Ouija board planchette. The technology has evolved. I have seen the critics say that the modern equipment, the K2 meter, the Ovilus, the puck, all of these pieces of equipment are ineffective. That it doesn't work, it's just purely coincidence, you know, like the Frank's box, for instance. I've seen with my own two eyes and heard with my ears things that have convinced me that these are legitimate pieces of equipment that may communicate with the dead. Not every time. Not every time. Not on cue. It's unpredictable. But so is the Ouija board. So I know for a fact, a Ouija board is effective means of communication. If it never worked, millions of people, millions, would never have purchased a board. But it works. It's not just a game. It's an actual means of communication. You can take a marker, mark down a piece of paper, and it's considered a Ouija board. It's pretty amazing how something so simple can yield such results. But the newer stuff is it's good. It's another means of communication. We have to make the vehicle of communication easy for the dead. There's no physical body, there's no organic matter. There's no physical body, there's no organic matter. They don't have vocal cords. They can't just easily project communication. So they have to use something that's simple. Something with airwaves, something with sound, something with writing, physical letters. There's so many different ways to do it.
And do you think if there's a danger in communicating with spirits, is there an equal danger in using a K2 meter as using a Ouija board?
Right,
like,
so are they all the same pretty much?
Or if not, why?
This is the question between a lot of people in the paranormal is, if you are doing EVP work, is it the same as using a Ouija board? Of course, you are trying to communicate, except for a different media. If you're asking an EVP question with a tape recorder in your hand, when you play it back, you're hoping you get a message. What kills me is the people that are afraid to use the Ouija board, but not afraid to do EVP work. Why? It's just another means of communication. It is just as bad to use a Ouija board as it is to do EVP work. We're asking ghosts with a Ouija board to spell out messages for us. We're asking ghosts with a recording device to say messages to us. So, in my opinion, it's all the same, no matter what.
Perfect. And, you know, same thing with like a K2 meter, right?
Right.
You know, like you say, is anyone here? Blank, you know, it's just kind of funny. It's a great argument, though. I love that.
Oh, but it's not taboo to do that. But it's so taboo. Ouija boards. I mean, everybody's opinion of Ouija boards. It's all because the movies have taught us that boards are just going to lead to demonic possession. Anything can lead to demonic possession. I mean, somebody under the influence of drugs and alcohol could lead to demonic possession. Anything negative is going to latch on to a human because of their weakness. Has nothing to do with a board with letters on it.
That leads into another question. Do you think the board itself has any special power?
I don't believe the Ouija board itself has any special power. Again, from my experiences, from my experiences, I've been able to just simply write letters down on a plastic tablecloth and turn a shot glass upside down, and it was moving around spelling out messages. It is entertaining to hear the stories about how people have been told from a priest to bury the board and leave it out in moonlight and salt and the myriad of different methods of cleansing a board. Perhaps there's some truth to that, and I'm not an expert on that, but I don't believe it's the board that's haunted itself. I think too many movies growing up as a child, too many movies like Witchboard and all these other movies have sort of brainwashed us into thinking that it's a vehicle. It's just a vehicle for spirits to communicate with us.
Perfect. Do you want to do...
Just wonderful stuff.
Yeah, it is perfect.
Well, why don't we do her the invention?
Yeah. Well, when one last question. Okay, so we found out when we were at Hasbro that since 1967, 13 million Ouija boards have been produced.
That's a lot. 13 million.
Wow.
I was hoping you would tell me about that, because I said millions of people have been using them. Thousands seem too small.
Yeah. So
13 million.
Yeah. So respond to that. Hearing
just
67.
67.
Did you guys ask them if anyone ever writes them with their horror stories? I mean, can they produce letters from people that said this board ruined my life, I'm going to sue you?
They can't. Letters are legally confidential between the people who send them, but yes, they tell me that they exist.
They do.
And you got William Fuld letters, which is the same thing.
Yeah, I have all the letters from 1890 to 1966. Every letter that every customer ever wrote in. Good, bad, and ugly.
Did you read them?
Oh, yeah. I've transcribed them.
That just bleeped. I don't know if it's full or what.
But that's okay.
That's interesting. I'd like to talk to you about that sometime, like what people have said. The urban legends, is it a coincidence that their house just burnt down a week later? Or
you can see all kinds of things, from people being... becoming pregnant, believing the Ouija board, trying to sue the company for...
No, it's just semen.
For father.
Yeah.
Exactly, it happens. It's spelled out pregnant.
It was so super... Oh, so it did spell out pregnant? Well, it's like Jeff Jody Lovedead. Now, the guy, Jeff Howe, they should interview Jeff Howe. He's a retired police officer. That's who the board spelled out, Jeff Jody Lovedead. Every time I see him, I mention that whole thing, and he just clams right up. He won't even talk about it because he's that disturbed about it that night, thinking that it was all of us playing a prank on him, and then for him to propose, take that ring out of his pocket, and she turned him down and dumped him. It was like, whoa. He has the freaking goosebumps again, man.
One thing that's always been a head scratcher for me, I mean, how can society put the Ouija board in a category of being so evil and something that could cause all these problems, but at the same time, hey, it's a toy. You can buy it on your shelf in your local store. I mean, how can we be on so different sides of the spectrum?
Well, it was marketed that way, as a toy.
But why?
How else are you going to market it?
Look
They made
at
a
the
ton of money.
folklore that's attached to it. I mean, look at what we're talking about right here in this interview. The potential dangers, the possessions, people that are getting their lives, turned upside down by things like this.
Well, I compare it to like a crystal ball. People use crystal balls as another medium to communicate with the dead and predict the future. But if Hasbro came along and marketed the crystal ball, it'd be one in every house. It just hasn't been marketed as a paranormal or afterlife invention for that. You can find a crystal ball on a great shelf in a shop in Salem. And everyone sees the crystal ball, and there's only one reason for it. It's because people used to gaze in them in the days, and you picture the old gypsy, But if Hasbro came along and marketed a crystal ball, but a $4 version of it, there'd be one in every closet.
Yeah, it's true. Well, to me, it's all an invitation. I mean, whether you're talking about a K2 meter or a Ouija board, it's all an invitation to communicate with the other side. So I don't know how they can possibly classify it as a toy if it's being used, primarily for what we're all talking about.
This is a Hasbro documentary, so I don't think they
know.
want us bashing it.
No, it's not a Hasbro documentary.
Yeah, no, it's totally not.
Oh, it's
They
not?
just
No.
agreed to be part of it.
Okay.
So
We were
yeah.
the
Alright,
first people
so-
to ever film in there, but they.
Oh, so they're not sponsoring this.
No.
No,
I
So
will
who's
tell you-
paying for it?
So I will tell you this.
Hi, hi.
We're doing
Oh,
it.
so this
We're
really is
splitting it,
your
yeah.
project.
This is totally
Oh,
indie.
okay.
It's a total.
That's why, you know, we
So
really
be
like get the
completely
real
honest,
story.
because
Okay.
it's exactly what we want, and they know we're.
Oh, I didn't know like if we should just like
Oh, no.
say taboo.
So I'll tell you, there's two things, and then you can both like respond to them. One is since 1967, 13 million Ouija boards have been produced. The second thing to respond to is that Hasbro and Universal Pictures are working on a movie. So they're working on a movie that's going to be released. It's supposed to be
Tell me
next year.
about
So clearly there's interest, or they're trying to spark interest. Like, what do you think of ongoing marketing and?
Want to go first?
That's a really good question. What do I think of ongoing marketing? I think the beauty about the Ouija board is it markets itself. We don't really see too many commercials on TV about the Ouija board at all. What kind of network would air it? You know, it's one of those taboo things, like, ooh, it's bad. Yet, it's a great seller, and it's a very profitable piece of board game merchandise, if you'll call it. There really hasn't been any new stuff about the board. It's just passed down from generation to generation, and children speak about it, and it's one of those things like Bloody Mary and Light as a Feather, passed down to generations just from talking about it. Ouija boards will always be here. You know what I want to do? I want to talk about like something you and I talked about it, how I wanted to work with MIT students about some research.
Perfect.
How does
Go
that
for it.
tie into the future of the Ouija board?
Well, you
Like,
could
is
just
that
talk-
another question? Or
No, we have a question. Like, do you
Yeah.
think that the Ouija board is something that should be researched and studied
Yes.
by professionals, and kind of try to figure out why?
yeah,
it
I'm
works?
dying to talk about that, and you'll get
Perfect.
the
See,
answer
thank
too.
you.
Oh,
There you
go
go.
for it. Go for it. You're on a roll.
This is just something that has to get done, and I really want to work with you on this. The future of the Ouija board is just so wide open. You know, you got everyone looking for ghosts, but not a lot of people in this country are really doing a lot of work with Ouija boards. I would love to work with some MIT or Worcester Polytech Institute students as a project, and this could be a very futile project for them, for a research project. I would love to do some studies on the Ouija board use. I would love to actually thermal studies, X-ray technology, just kind of find out what is pushing that planchette. We already know that something is. Is it us? Is it our energy? Or is it something supernatural pushing it? And if so, can that energy be measured? It has to be measured. I mean, there's no way that somewhere down the line someone's not going to know this answer. I want to be the first to find out, you know, can we scientifically document what is pushing that planchette and spelling out these messages?
Well, and you've actually came up with something to kind of start that process.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that.
Should I just kind of like pull it out of my ass or just leave it
Sure,
here on the
whatever.
table? I mean,
Yep,
well, I just happen to have it right here, Bob. What a coincidence.
And if you call now,
But wait, there's more.
There's more. Beautiful.
I just want to show you off the record here. When the pressure to contact the spirits is just too much.
It's.
We gotta show this to Hasbro, man.
You're totally. I don't know if you can see this here, but it's just
Yeah.
fantastic.
You've got connections over there. We gotta talk about that. And maybe they'll buy my idea.
It's a great idea.
Well, why wouldn't you want to reinvent the wheel?
I know.
I mean,
I-
it's a complete 2011 version of the old-fashioned planchette.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I'm very interested in my own research is where does the